Hi, David Zaritsky here for James Bond Lifestyle Video Podcast. I got it right. It's amazing. We're actually here in San Diego at the San Diego ComicCon. It's huge. Hundreds of thousands of people, but we have some incredible James Bond surprises for you. Hopefully some exclusives, but let's take you in there. It's crazy. Let's go.
It was so disappointing. Turned off. Like the GoldenEye. Yeah.
All right, everybody, this is the exciting moment. I am here with none other than Barry Eldridge. You have heard the name and seen the emails and some of the board messages, but here we are at the Factory Entertainment booth. Very exciting time. Why? Because we're littered right now with an entire Bond table filled with replicas that are coming to you very shortly. So a bit of an exclusive today.
Yep, totally exclusive.
Thank you so much, by the way, for taking the time.
Thank you.
First of all, you know, just a general question a lot of people have been asking in this, why Bond?
Because it's cool. Because it's Bond. What else? Bond, you know, we tried to pick properties that are, they have a worldwide appeal and they have a timeless appeal. Bond spans generations, it spans countries, everybody knows Bond everywhere in the world. All you got to do is play the first 2-3 bars of the theme tune, everybody knows what it is immediately. And it has an appeal. The problem with a licensed product like this now is modern movies come in and out of a theatre in 2 weeks. And people don't have a chance to get an emotional attachment to something, to want to own a piece of that Hollywood magic. Because every time they make a decision, they're getting their opinions changed. And so Bond is completely the opposite. People have had a chance to grow up with it, to fall in love with it, and form an attachment with the items, and they want to own them. It's very hard to make replicas that are, let's face it, an investment purchase for something that you are not sure that you really like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, a lot of people have said, you know, other people have tried this. Other companies have made an attempt, and they've actually done a good job.
Yeah,
they really have. But who is going to pick up the mantle? And we were very happy to see that there was a corporation that's got a history of doing these things correctly. But you know, we're kind of scratching our heads and wondering what's coming next. And that's what this is about today, is the what's coming next. Now, what do you pick? I mean, what goes through your mind in saying we could do 40, 50 different pieces, but why these particular pieces?
Well, it is the hardest thing.
Right.
You know, you have probably 260 odd potential props, if you like, that you can choose from, and literally it is, what do you pick? The honest answer is, it comes right from the top, from Eon.
It does.
We will propose to them some ideas, they will think about them. The first feedback they always have is, do they like it? Is it something that they personally enjoy? And the second feedback is, will fans like it? They always ask us, have you discussed with the fan? I think there's some sort of, you know, understanding that the fan community is a group that you can go to and talk to all of them, which obviously is not the case, but we try the best we can.
Sure, thank goodness for social media.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And they do ask, you know, the first question is always, will fans respond to this?
Right.
Is there a demand for this? Do people want it? And to which we have to say yay or nay. And some of the things are a dead hit. You know, obviously the Golden Gun, everybody wanted it. There was a huge pent-up demand.
Right.
Some of the other things we have to say, well, there's an appeal, or there's the reason why is this. And then secondly, we try to coordinate it with things like anniversaries. If there's a particular movie coming
up. And we've got a big anniversary next year, 50th anniversary.
Or a video game coming out. The GoldenEye device, for example, is one of those unusual Bond props that has an appeal to both movie fans and to a younger generation who grew up with it as part of the game.
Yep.
And being here this week, the amount of kids who come up and say, oh cool, it's the GoldenEye from the game. Yep. They've never even seen the movie.
Absolutely. Well, so, I mean, we've got an incredible array here today. Let's talk about this. First of all, with this giant piece, and what's incredible about this is nobody has done this yet.
No.
So talk to me a little bit about this. First of all, why this particular piece? This is part of the second wave, so it's still very important in building the name of Factory Entertainment. And then, how the hell did you do it?
Well, everybody loves the weapons, and at the end of the day, Bond is you know, weapons are important to Bond. The problem with weapons is we live in a modern era, and reproducing weapons has legal issues, ethical issues, and liability issues. So, unfortunately, we are very, very limited in the number of weapons that we can produce.
Oh, sure.
Basically, we can't produce anything that is a current production firearm produced before 1800.
No PPKs, no P99s, all of that. Okay.
And it's just a legal problem, and it's just the modern age we live in, unfortunately.
Sure.
You know, anybody doing it in their garage can do it, but as a company, we can't afford the liability and the risk. But this obviously isn't real,
right?
And it doesn't look real, and there's no way anybody can mistake it for real. But it's an interesting prop because the original, there were no hero props. The two types of prop you normally have are a hero prop, which works, it functions, it's close up, and then you have stunt props, which usually tend to be pretty basic, and they're only meant for long shots or for action sequences. And in the movie, these were all made of a dense foam material, so they were like a hard rubber.
They could fall, they could drop them, they could smash them. Right, correct.
And there are only a few that exist back in the archive, and because they were made for a scene where there was a lot of combat and action, they've seen better days. They're a bit dinged around, but we were loaned the original prop, we looked at it, we scanned it, we measured it, and we haven't cast directly from it because you can't cast the rubber without damaging it.
Absolutely.
But we've done the next best thing, which is to scan it, and this is an accurate reproduction of it.
Amazing.
It's based on an Uzi machine gun.
That's right.
The top piece here was actually the winding bracket off of a clamp from a workmate bench.
No kidding.
This is a thermostat from a radiator valve, and this is a grill out of a ventilator from like a small bathroom ventilator.
It's amazing. They cobbled it together. It's the kitchen sink weapon.
Yep. So what we're doing with this is we're trying to replicate the stunt piece with this. This won't have any function. This will be something that people can have, play around with. Interestingly, no trigger.
No trigger.
None of the props have any trigger. We're not going to put one in because it will start to become then a toy rather than a replica.
Absolutely.
This will be soup to nuts replica, exactly the same as the original.
Well, I was going to say, from a fan base standpoint, screen accuracy is important.
Yeah.
So functionality, it plays a very distant second to screen accuracy.
We could put a sound chip in here, we could put a blue light in the end, we can make it make noises, but then is it a toy, is it a replica? It's a very weird fine line.
It's a fine line. I agree. Well, I see a piece right away that a lot of people are going to seem very familiar. Obviously from Goldfinger, we've got the Homer and the mini Homer here, and tell us a little bit about this.
So this one obviously is one of the iconic Connery props. The original prop, and as was the case with many of the props in those days, was beautifully handmade and machined out of aluminum. The smaller brother on the original was actually brass. Now the problem with brass is, and people will wonder what this big domed screw is, this was present on the original. On the original, this piece came off, and inside was a large bar magnet, and everybody remembers the famous scene where Desmond Llewellyn drops the thing onto the thing. Anybody who knows anything about physics and science, brass is not magnetic, it falls off, so Desmond had to pull a little trick where he just dropped it onto the top. But with our one, it is magnetic.
Very nice.
Because we've used a brass alloy and we've taken enough brass in it to make it look like brass, but still enough other material so that it will actually magnetically attach.
By the way, this is interesting for people. So, this is certain business decisions that go on here. For example, you've got the screen accuracy, and there'll be people out there all over the boards that say, wait a minute, the original wasn't magnetic, why is mine? The reality is that you want some sort of functionality to it.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't get away from the screen accuracy, but it also gives you the functionality.
But also for something like this where the prop is very basic at the end of the day, and it will allow people to attach it to things. We think it's also funny that in the movie potentially he puts it inside the car. He must have made sure he put it on one of the internal things, because if he put it on the body panels, they're gold, and gold isn't magnetic either.
That's true. People didn't have the education we have today. Cut alloys.
Thank goodness for Blu-ray. And in this one we have added something that isn't present on the original prop. In the original prop it did nothing, but they added a sound effect, but I don't know if you can hear this, but we have added the...
Oh, I heard a little beep. Okay, it's like a eek.
That's the arming sound.
Very nice.
Now at the moment this does not spring back. This is only a handmade prototype. On the finished model this will spring back as the original did, undersprung.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, I kind of waited for this piece now because we're not going to really pick this up and play with it too much, but obviously we've got the GoldenEye device and the keys.
The GoldenEye lens, as it was called on set, and this is an exact copy of the original. There are a few things we need to fix here. You'll see this is a handmade prototype, which means the factory have handled it, so you've got some scratching and some marks. These won't be present on the final thing. Fairly basic construction, a resin stone or lens, a CD, a rewritable CD, which is what they used on the original, aluminum frame, and then you have an interesting feature which was present on the original, a light up.
Oh, very nice.
Now, we still have some work to do on this. We want to diffuse the light a little bit more. If anybody remembers the scene in the film, you see it lit up, and the only place you can really notice it is when it's lying in the cabinet on the Perspex shelf. But it's quite muted because they didn't have the same LED technology that we have available to us now. So we've made this a little bit brighter so that it has a little bit more appeal, but it needs to be toned down a little bit because you can actually see some of the light in the edge as I break the keys.
There we go.
And the lens has the same sort of semi-clear resin effect to it. It's an interesting lens. It's not uniform. They actually, we don't know whether they originally told us they cast it from a doorknob, but it's so ununiform that I don't think it was. I think it was just randomly faceted to look like a diamond of some kind. We've copied the battery feature from the original, goes in the side exactly the same as the original did, and this is indistinguishable from the original.
Unbelievable. And again, this is because you had access to the actual pieces.
They actually lent it to us. We had it here last year at ComicCon, and we took it to the hotel room and turned it on. And when we turned it on, the TV went crazy, and we started to look for the helicopters. We were quite concerned. The keys are great. They're very heavy, machined, gold-plated, and have a really nice feel and weight to them. And we were able to cast and copy from the original keys, and they are a mirror. They are the same.
Absolutely phenomenal looking.
And they have the GoldenEye lens motif in the top, which is quite nice.
It's a showpiece, it truly is.
I think it's great, and as I say, it's one of those Bond things that transcends both the movie and the video game and is generational. You get young kids who are really excited about this, you get guys like us who are really excited about this, and it was one of the coolest things in the movie.
So, brings us to something for you more traditional Bond fans, and actually Barry is sporting his bling.
Sans White Cat.
Absolutely. The White Cat sells it, but you know, we're here at Comic-Con. Tell us about this, because it's a beautiful piece.
Well, this is the Spectre ring from Russia with Love, and again, this is an early prototype. The Spectre rings have a long and storied history within Bond. I won't pull it out because it's too tight. Everybody knows Blofeld wore it, #1, also his associates. There are multiple rings. This is the first ring that you see the first time it appears on screen in From Russia with Love. It's only seen on the hand of Anthony Dawson as #1, and you never see his face. It became iconic. It's been copied so many times. The villain, Austin Powers, everybody else has copied that ring and cat motif. It has the Spectre octopus on it, and it has, quite interesting, if you want to pan up, I'll show you one here. So the design was supposed to mirror an octopus, but unfortunately somebody didn't do their marine research very well, because obviously everybody knows octopus have 4 legs on each side, not 3, but still, it's meant to look like an octopus, and also has an open back design. Now, we're not sure. The problem with this prop is that it's so old, and so many of the production crew involved with it have sadly deceased. There's very little fact that you can get, and there's a lot of anecdotal stuff. We are told that this was deliberately done so that it could be resized for different actors, but I don't know that that's true, because obviously the first time the prop was required, it was only needed to be worn by 1 man. It appears in Thunderball again, and what they've used is exactly the same base and exactly the same ring, but they changed the top. And I think for Thunderball, potentially, this may have been a bit of foresight by whoever did it. This is quite costume jewellery specific. You see this on a lot of costume jewellery, so that it can be moved and changed. And we think that's what it was, but also possibly to just facilitate the octopus motif, I think.
That does make sense. That's exactly
but what we do know on the original was actually carved soap. It wasn't soap stone, it was actually a carved bar of soap, blackened up with shoe polish. And if you remember, and I don't know if we can pick this up on screen, but if you remember in the film, it had a strange cast to it.
Probably won't pick up on screen, but
if go back and check your DVDs out and look at the way the ring actually appears, and when you look at it, then you can see, oh my god, it is soap.
That's amazing.
So of course, soap doesn't survive.
But it's functional. You can clean yourself with it. And
you're thinking that the requirement for a prop was, we need a ring and we need it in 2 days, and we need it to be relatively cheap, and so it was probably whatever they had lying around. But of course it meant that the soap didn't survive, and in Thunderball I think that's why they probably had the base with a hole in the middle, and they chose to replace the stone for Thunderball with, so the ring has continuity throughout the Bond, and it goes on to appear in further films.
So clearly Barry knows his Bond, so he's not just working in it, he loves it as well.
Misspent youth.
Yeah, well,
I'm not an expert.
Misspent is a question, because it's my misspent as well. But here's the thing, so there's a lot of people on the other side of this camera right now that want to know, great, you're showing us, we're drooling, things are sparking on my keyboard. When do these come out?
The first item will be the Spectre ring, and that will be very soon. We should explain the process to people. What happens is we choose a prop in collaboration with Eon and Danjak. We then produce a prototype which goes to them. It actually goes to the producers. They take a personal chance to look at everything, and they make decisions and changes and choices. If at the stage of a a prototype, they request a major change, that can delay the product. If they say we like it, but we need the following things, small cosmetic changes, they're not so slow. Then we proceed to final production, and then we put something on pre-order. So we don't put anything on pre-order now until the product is actually on the way or on the boat. So you will see a little delay, and sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes we may have a product that we think is finished, and they will request a major 6 months change internally that has no requirement, and people will say, well, what did they change? And it's small little things, and usually very, very unusual, specific, niche little things. So it'll be Spectre ring first, then most likely the GoldenEye, followed immediately by the tracking device. This little beauty is a bit difficult because the production for this is just so much more complex, and it's larger, and it requires issues. The problem we have at the moment is working out the packaging to protect it adequately in transit so it doesn't get broken. Because you're imagining a box that's about this long.
Well, absolutely. I mean, think about, for those of you out there that had the ARC generator from District 9, I mean, the box was the size of a refrigerator box. It had to be. So 2012, do we think, for this?
Possibly. We're trying to get that in, but I think more realistically, this 2012, certainly 2012, this 2011, and possibly this late 2011. But
okay, so
it's about a year.
We could have Christmas, and then we're going to bleed probably into 2012.
And we won't do what we did last time. We won't release multiple products at the same time. One product will come out, and then there will be a small gap, and then another product will come out. Because things like the tarot cards and the Jaws teeth, which are great products, were overshadowed by the Golden Gun.
Okay, so there was a certain amount of dilution, if you will.
Yeah, but the Golden Gun now, the signature edition is now completely sold out. We sold our last one last week. And the Golden Gun regular edition is 4/5 of the way sold out. And when the final batch arrives in August, that will sell out very quickly, and that will be that forever.
Okay, I want the camera not to deviate from us because this is a very controversial question. Barry's not expecting it. He's kind of expecting it. Doesn't matter. This is incredible. Can you give us any exclusive of what's coming after this?
We are working on the attaché case.
Yes.
It is a very difficult prop. It has some legal issues. It has concealed weapons in it, which are illegal in many states and many countries. It has
Tennessee.
It has counterfeit currency in it, which will get me in trouble with Her Majesty's government if I start copying currency.
By that you mean Canada, right?
No.
Oh, the Majesty.
Australia. What do you mean?
No.
It's just a very complex prop, but it is the iconic prop, and it is the producer's favourite prop. Of all the things, every single time we go with a prop suggestion, the first thing they say is, when are you going to do the attaché case? When are you going to do the attaché case? And our answer to that is, obviously the anniversary is coming up. We want it to be an anniversary product, but if we can't do it properly, we won't rush it and we won't do it.
I love that. I love that. Do it right and give us the toys.
That's what we want to try and do.
So this is as close to a queue as probably us fans are going to get. Okay, we've looked at all the toys, and surprise, surprise, we've been joined by none other than Daniel Craig. And Daniel Craig, and actually Daniel Craig. He's a huge fan of his own movies, and he's here today. First of all, thanks for joining us. This has been David Zaretsky of James Bond Lifestyle Video Podcast. Barry Eldridge of Factory Entertainment, thanks again, and we'll see you shortly. Take care.